Just talk us through what that means to you after all the hard work to put a squad together, get a club going, to win your first up game in a derby, no less. What does that mean to you and the club?
Yeah, first and foremost, you've got to look at the owners that had a dream, a couple of years ago to put together a new club in the competition. And with all the things that happened throughout the world, it made it very difficult. But in the end, we got there, and today was an important day for the club. Of course, important for the club's history, but also important for the game. In the A-League, a new team coming in, we want to be competitive, we want to add value. But I'm delighted with the players and the staff. And I must admit, a big focus of mine when I was appointed head coach of Macarthur was to bring in the players that I felt could execute the playing style, but also the staff that I believe can work together in the right way, and with a little bit of youth, but also good people around the football clubs. That's the most important thing for us. So look, it's just the first game. It's good to win, particularly against such a strong team like Western Sydney. But we'll be satisfied tonight. But we know that we'll have to quickly recover and shift our focus to the Mariners on Sunday.
The performance of Adam Federici, Ante, can you touch on that from the 35-year-old?
Yeah, well, I think the start of the second half, there was a 15-minute period where they had a bit of set-piece pressure, and I thought Fedders was outstanding. He's been like that from day one. He probably hasn't played the amount of football that he would have liked over the last year or so, and he was the second player that I contacted once I got the job. Obviously, Milicic was first, but to bring Fedders in there, he's still hungry, still wants to play, he wants to win. He really drives the standards at training, and he's working really well with Nick Suman as well, and of course Glenn Moss. So I'm delighted with Fedders' performance, but again, I thought the whole team defensively, I thought our structure was quite decent, and in the end, that's what he's there for. And I think if you ask Fedders, he would prefer to make those saves, but it was a good night for him.
There's Benyat almost scored with his first touch of the ball in the A-League, a long-distance shot, and obviously had the free kick that resulted in the goal. How pleased are you with his impact off the bench, and how close is he to showing us more of what he's capable of in terms of his fitness?
It's an interesting one because when they came to the club, Benyat and Susweta, I looked at when they played their last game, and I think Benyat was in Feb and Susweta was in March, and I'm looking at the loads, but I'm also looking at their age, but the kilometres they have in their legs. Obviously the draw. Now that's changed more recently, but they definitely have a lot of quality. But at the same time, I'm going with the approach of looking after their bodies. I think there's a duty of care there. Could have quite easily be tempted to start them today, both of them, because they just have that something extra, particularly when they're on the field at the same time. And I looked at the first couple of rounds, and I think it's Sanchez started with Western United, although they've got a longer break. Tommy Juric started tonight. Dorrans went from the first minute as well. And these players that I've mentioned, they came at the same time as our two Spanish boys. But they'll only get better. They'll learn the Australian way. They're still getting to understand it. But definitely delighted with both Markel and Benyat tonight.
What about the other end of the age spectrum? There's I think it was Jake Holman who won the free kick, and Lockie Rose was really, really good in the first half and a little bit in the second there too. You must be very happy to see young players like that performing to that level. Yeah,
they deserve a chance, and that's probably the beauty when you come into a startup club. You've got to fill 20 plus players into your squad, and there was a long period there where our technical staff went to all the NPL games back then with Holman. I remember watching him in an NYL game. Rose is a different one because he didn't come from MPL 1, he came from MPL 2, but we saw something in him. He came in, he trained well, he did well in the friendly games, and he's just a kid that really loves the game and wants to get better, and he appreciates being in this environment. I think he's the kind of person that's good at football, good at Aussie rules, good at surfing. He's just a natural athlete, and I think tonight was a big night for him, and I'm ever so delighted that he put in a good performance. And we've got a couple of more young ones as well, so I think the way the fixture lists are moving forward, I think if they do the right thing at training, they'll get an opportunity.
Ante, was there any sort of trepidation from you at all about how the team would gel? We knew it was an impressive group on paper,
Yep.
but was there any, from a coaching point of view, any sort of anxiety about how you would actually go in your first up game?
I wouldn't say anxiety, but what did concern me was obviously being a new club, we weren't in the hub in July and August, so we hadn't played together in proper A-League football. And if you look at our squad, I think we've got 8 that played in the A-League last year, and a lot of these boys, Mills's last game was in March. I think Sushnya was in December last year. Jovanovic was in March also. So a lot of these guys hadn't played a competitive game for a long period of time. And so it was very important how we started, but also how they felt, the match minutes, the subs that we make, and at what time of the game. So I was quite pleased with the preparation, but at the same time, you don't know how it's going to end up. It's the first game. They're calling it a derby, yes, 2 Sydney teams, but that first game, you don't know how it's going to pan out. I mean, I looked last night at Melbourne City, and they win the game from a bit of quality from Metcalf, but at the same time, they lose Naboot possibly for a couple of weeks. So it's a fine line between that, but credit to the medical staff, but also to Anth Creer as well. He's done a fantastic job this pre-season. He's worked with A-League teams before, and fortunate that we had a good group of players available for the game today.
And expectations will obviously go up a level now that you've won your first game. I know you'll say we're only focused on the next clash that's coming up, but in terms of talk that you're a legitimate contender in your first up season and all that sort of stuff, are you happy to embrace that?
No, I'm actually not having any of it. Because I don't know what that's based on. That's just an opinion. It's coffee shop talk. We won our first game. There's a lot more games to go. What we have with our group, they have their own expectations, their internal expectations, and also as the coaching staff have to. But it's a good win. It's away from home. We have to regroup. We need to have our now positive performance at home in front of our own fans. But let's not get carried away. I think the world's shown that there's been a lot of twists and turns, and I think in Australian football, you always get them as well. So we just have to be ready and prepared for whatever comes in front of us. But we've got enough experience in there to know we won't get carried away. Yes, we'll enjoy it, but we need to be better. We need to improve, which we will. And then we, as I said, we prepare for Sunday's game against the Mariners.